And Carl, we're just going to keep it conversational for right now. So, we just wanted to hear a little bit. How did you initially get involved in this project?
In the Voices of Latin Rock, I got involved, I think, right away when Carlos Santana brought me the rough draft of this book. And I read through it in the hotel room, and I thought it was really something at that point. I was reading history that I was actually craving. It was missing in my life. I know a lot about Afro-Cuban music and Latin rock, but the more I read and seeing photos and the whole picture and the idea of photos and being in this book. So as far as being involved, I got myself involved early on. That's when I met Jim McCartney on the book, and he interviewed me. And I've been doing Voices of Latin Rock now since the beginning.
Tell me something. What did you think when you got this guy from London, who sort of didn't appear to be the person that would be documenting this history of Latin rock, especially through this pretty incredible time period, this music time period. Well, how did you feel about Jim and that this would be the person that would document this music?
And he did his homework. I mean, he studied obviously for many years. He's a man with many questions. And so, my hat goes off to him. I mean, he worked his tail off trying to get the right information, and things that I might have brought up or somebody else might have brought up, he counteracted with, well, I heard it was done this way, So, he was very picky, choosy, on what to say in the book, So, again, I felt it very refreshing. I thought it was brilliant from someone from the outside the U.S. doing it.
And how did you meet Ronnie Sanso?
I met Ron Sanso in the Mission District. He used to have a business in the Mission, so I know Ronnie for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm. And were you brought up here in the Mission District?
Born and raised in the Mission.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been performing?
I've been performing since around the age of, I would say, that far back. I've been playing since 2 years old, So I performed with my mother and my father, and did some shows with Cal Jader when I was in the 6th grade. It was quite, little shows here and there,
And this year's show, what's your participation in this year's show?
Well, they've promoted me. I'm no longer a sideman, although I don't mind being a sideman. I really don't. I am the musical director for the Voices of Latin Rock band. I'm just happy to be a part of this thing,
Great. Okay, cool. Now I'm gonna turn Jim over to you for these specific questions that we'll do and drop in. Great, thank you, man.
You kind of.
Let me get speed first.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. We got speed whenever you're ready.
Don't say speed to me.
I'm sorry.
I'm a recovering addict.
We have rolling digital tape right now.
Actually, nice.
Yeah.
Is this on VHS?
Yeah.
It's on Super VHS. It's
Yeah.
on Super 8. How's
All right.
that?
You ready?
Yep.
Okay, right, yeah. Can you tell us, Carl, about your early influences as a drummer? Can you tell us something about the kind of things that got you playing? I mean, you're obviously there seems to be a kind of a roll call in the Mission of child prodigies almost. You're not the only percussionist I've heard of that's started very early. Can you tell us a bit about your early influences and what really made you want to play drums?
My early influences were my mother and my father. And believe it or not, Desi Arnaz, we used to watch the I Love Lucy show. It was pretty great influence there, But, Buddy Rich, Gene Cooper, Tito Puente, the great Armando Perazza, Francisco Avella, there's so many other percussionists that were a big influence for me.
Yeah. Can you tell us? You mentioned that you played with Karl when you were 11 years old. That's quite something. Was that your first? Was that some of your first professional playing in the public eye, or had you done a lot before that? Or can you?
No, I've done some stuff with my mother and my father playing, but my music teacher, Arthur Flower, was good friends with Cal, and that's how he introduced me to Cal.
And you gigged with Karl?
I just did a couple of shows, sit in, kind of thing, featured.
Can you tell us a bit about living as you're a Mission District resident? Can you tell us a bit about the rise of before Latin rock it was more a Latin jazz scene? Can you tell us a bit about the interim period between the Cal and the emergence of Santana and Latin rock? Can you tell us a little bit about what was going on then, what you were maybe doing in that scene yourself?
The whole area was just loaded with what I like to call garage bands, and you can walk streets and then hear bands rehearsing, and so I mean, as far as that goes, listening to a lot of bands and different types of music, along with my father telling me, hey, you should listen to jazz, and there was music everywhere. The radio was playing, different types of stuff. It was a really good time, and the emergence of Santana was a music that really needed to be present when it came out. It was like a healing type of music, it was like, yet it was rebel, it's like rock, but Latin, but totally refreshing. It's something that you needed, So I remember my cousins just totally turning me on to Santana and saying, man, you got to hear this stuff. At the same time, this is a little later, but Santana was 69, but you get the emergence of Find Your All Stars, and and you start hearing the Afro-Cuban music and the Latin jazz and then the Latin rock scene, and you can see how they're all kind of like colors just merging together, forming their own kind of vibrancy, So, like I said, it was just refreshing, man, to have all this kind of music.
Yeah. What did were you Pete Escovedo in a recent interview talked about the brown sound. Did you feel that there was definitely a new Santana, for example, and the other things you mentioned? Did you think there was definitely a revolution in Latin music happening at the time? Did it feel like that to you, or did you feel a significance attached to the music?
Well, I definitely felt attached to the music. I don't know if it was a revolution because I was only maybe 12.
Oh right, okay.
But I did feel the energy. I mean, when you hear bands like Santana, you hear Malo, you hear Azteca, Sapo, all these bands, they had their own thing. Everyone had their own thing going on, and it kind of, the power of the music was so that, let me change it, because the power of Santana influenced all these other bands to come out. And all due respect, with the other Latino artists that were out before Carlos, Richie Valens, played a big part. But Santana brought the music to the living room. He brought it to a higher conscious level. It's like, it was almost like wow, man, this is something I was missing in my life, And so you got to understand that a lot of these bands respond from that same energy. Everyone had the same feeling. They wanted to do it. They wanted to play it. They wanted to be it. They wanted to live it, And so it was a good time, And now I'm right snap dab in the middle,
Yeah. Can you when the Santana, do you need any water or anything?
Okay.
When the Santana thing was happening, and after the Cal thing and that, what sort of bands were you playing with? I know that you played with a band called Attitude in the 1970s, which was composed of a couple of members of Santana. Can you tell us a bit about how you arrived with playing with them, and maybe tell us a little bit about that band that didn't really get beyond the regional scene, but again was supposed to be a good band of its type? You know?
Attitude was led by Mr. Mike Carabello, who was the original conga player, one of the original conga players in Santana. It's a beautiful day, man. And this guy sat next to me as I was playing, just watching me. He said, "Man, do you mind if I play?" And I said, "Sure. You know, here, take the drum." We had been playing all day, you know. And he started playing, and I started listening to him speak, you know. And I said to myself, "Man, I know this sound, you know. I know this style of playing." And I started looking at him, and it was kind of surreal, man, because it was like if the music just stopped, you know, it just all stopped, and I just started talking, you know, to him. I said, "Man, what's your name?" And he said, "My name is Michael." I go, "Oh, okay. Michael what?" He said, "Carabello." And I just, you know, right at that point you're going, I was like, whoa. I go, "Oh my God, man." I said, I'm such a big fan of yours, you know. And you know, he's quite a character, you know. That's how I met Mike Carabello, and that's how I played with Attitude. And in that band was David Brown. There's a lot of good players actually in that band. Mike Sasaki, Cold Blood. A lot of good players.
Did you do much with that band? Did it? I mean, I heard that the band recorded, but it.
Yeah, we recorded a couple songs, and I just remember a 45 coming out, you know. And boy, I was proud of that, man. Through there, I started kind of branching out a little bit, you know, and playing with Jorge Santana, you know. And you start meeting people, you know, and I've just been blessed of meeting the best, you know.
You played with one of the other people that's on our The Voices of Latin Rock 5 show, the Azteca. We've got Sheila E. playing drums with Azteca, and you also, I believe, sometime after Attitude, joined a band with her or formed a group there. Can you tell us a bit about that, playing with Sheila E? Because again, the music went in another direction then, didn't it?
That's correct, yeah. You know, you think you're prepared, you know, to play all types of music. I was rehearsing for a telethon, a Jerry Lewis telethon, with a big orchestra with a Latin band. I was playing timbales, snare drum, and a kick, and I didn't know Sheila was rehearsing in the next room, although we grew up together, doing shows, and we've known each other, but I didn't know she was rehearsing in the next studio. So in the middle of the tune, the door opened, and I seen somebody peeking in, you know, and wasn't too sure who it was. They were just kind of peeking, just watching. And I shut the door, and that rehearsal ended. I went outside, and there was Sheila. And I thought, "Oh man, great, how you doing?" I said, "Are you still playing with Lionel Richie or George Duke?" Or she went, "No, I got a record deal, and I got a single coming out, and by the way, you play drums like that? I mean, you play timbales with a kick and snare?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "I want you to audition for my band." I was like, "Audition? Okay. When?" Like, "Right now." I was like, "Okay." So she goes like, what kind of music is it?" She said, "It's funk." And I go, "I've never played funk." She goes, "You can play it. I can hear it. You can play it." So I go in there, and I get an audition of a few bars, and she says, "I like it. You have a passport?" "Oh, no." She goes, "Well, where are you going? You're going to need one. We're leaving for Germany in a week." So that's how I got the job. I really have to thank Sheila E. for that great opportunity and just a career-changing, life-changing. Sheila took me around the world. God bless her.
You're running out.
Yeah, we're gonna cut for a second, we're gonna take change.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.